Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
All right, I'm calling the meeting to order. Is there any public comment at this point? Helen, did you have a public comment? Did you want to, that's something that's not on the agenda? Are you just here to visit? Can you hear me, Helen?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't want to say anything. I'm
Okay, all right.
watching.
Just watching. All right, we're so exciting. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the January 4th meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additions or corrections? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, warrants and bills, you received that. You saw what we have to pay. It's pretty straightforward. Any questions about that?
No.
Rob did tell me the LCS controls, there's another bill coming in for $2,800. He hasn't gotten the invoice yet, but he's thinking they might have to get another one, so they have one in reserve.
These are controls for the wastewater treatment plant?
Yeah. It's some other, it's not whatever this one is, it's a different one. I don't know what they are, but he says they might have to have another one because the one we have is not very good. And I guess they wear out. So that we haven't gotten that bill yet. And he can explain it closer to the time we get the bill. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the warrant as printed for
So moved.
$5,686.98.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. So we have a guest with us tonight. I don't know, Helen, do you know Alex? Alex, wave your hand. Alex lives in, what's her name? Oh, the Warner's home on Main Street. Bob Warner. And Helen lives up on Clark Court.
Nice.
Okay. And so Alex is going to tell us about the exciting life of treasurer of Saxtons River.
So what should I be presenting here?
Well, just tell us what you do so that we can tell other people.
Okay. Let's see. So I'm I do the treasurer and tax collector roles together.
Mhm.
And right when I took the job as the treasurer, those two jobs were split. But it's much nicer having them together because the treasurer effectively does a bunch of the sort of tax collector functions. And so it's nice to just have them in one position.
Mhm.
So my main sort of week to week job is getting bills and paying them, and moving money between different accounts based on our sort of capital allocations and reserve allocations. And then reconciling our checkbook and making sure that all our accounts are balanced and then reporting that back to the trustees. And I try to do that on hopefully something like a monthly basis, but it's more like a quarterly or 2 times a year basis. Well, quarterly is fair. And yeah, so the majority is paying bills throughout most of the year. And I've been doing it for almost 4 years at this point. And I've been tracking my time pretty carefully, and it takes pretty much like 2 hours a week spread out over the course of the year. But there are weeks where I do nothing, and then there are weeks where I do 4 or 6 hours of work. The very busy times are getting ready for the annual meeting, just because it involves like a look back over not actually the year you're in, but the prior fiscal year. And that usually involves some like finding some weird thing that you have to fix, and then making a report for the annual report. And then the very busy time is July and August, when we send out sewer bills and property tax bills. Sewer bills are pretty straightforward, although I have to make them, which just takes like 2 hours of miserable mail merging. But then you get to the other side and it's okay, and you hit print. And mailing them all, which usually just like takes an evening. The town bills, or the village bills, the town of Rockingham prints them for us, which is awesome. However, that creates however, that creates some tracking complexity, because they don't provide a digital list of the thing that they give you. So you sort of have to create that as you go along, which is a hassle. Whereas Ben creates a wonderful list of all the sewer bills, which is very easy to fill in when someone is paid. And the village numbers are always wretched, like $119.34 and $264.17 instead of $695 or $1390, which is very easy to remember. So it just takes a lot more adding, and then the bank inevitably screws up on their math, or I screw up on my math, and it's just more of a hassle. So I think we should just round everything to the nearest dollar and call it good. But yeah, and then this past year has involved, past couple of years has involved kind of a whole nother account with the wastewater treatment plant. So that involved, as you all know, the line of credit, and then extinguishing that, and then a new checking account, and then money flowing from USDA to us, and then us to USDA, and then to all the different, to the contractor basically, and the engineer. That is thankfully over. But then this past year we had our single audit, which also added some time and learning to my world. It wasn't quite as bad as I was expecting it to be, but it still added a bunch of time and phone calls with auditors and like weird compiling of information that they needed. So that's over, which is great. And I also managed to do that without squeaking too much over my kind of running yearly hourly tally, which is something like 100 hours to 110 hours a year. The position also includes 2 different stipends, one for $12.50 for the treasurer, and then one for $750 for the tax collector. So that gets you to $2,000 for the year, which is nice, because it basically is like, 18 to 20 bucks an hour for your time throughout the year, which is not,
It's better than Walmart.
Yeah, better than Walmart, and it's just a nice recognition that it takes a fair bit of work to do.
You're going to have a wonderful, wonderful things you can put on your resume now.
I know, right?
You'll be the CEO of the company pretty soon. You have your hand up, Amy, or?
I do. I want to
Oh.
ask a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Alex, when you were starting out, how many hours do you think you spent? I mean, I'm delighted to hear that you're being fairly recompensed, but I'm going to guess that when you began 4 years ago, it was a lot more time consuming, and it took a lot to get your head around what had to be done and how to do it efficiently. So what's the learning curve? I
yeah.
guess that's what I'm asking.
I don't know what it was for my first year, because I didn't keep track of time as closely. And it was also, I only did the treasurer job the first year. However, separating the treasurer and tax collector makes it potentially more work, because so all the all the checks come in, and initially Connie was like putting them all on a little spreadsheet and giving them to me. And then inevitably there would be something would be just a slightly bit wrong, and I would have to recreate it, or she would find some issue with something I'd done. It was very redundant. So I think once I started doing it all, that's a pretty good indicator of how much time it actually takes. The systems are not complicated. And, Margot showed me some things, and then I've sort of added some systems in place that I think work, that I think make it more efficient. There's also 2 email accounts that I do a C+ job of answering, because of many other email accounts that I deal with. And mostly that is the occasional good piece of information, but a lot of times like obnoxious tax services pestering you for things you already paid and you have to tell them. And then they send you like, I need the tax amount and any balance that's due for property number such and such. And they don't give you the street address or who lives there. And so it's very challenging to find out who that is, because we don't have a good database of our parcel IDs anywhere.
You know how to find that on the web,
I
It-
can.
through the lister's office, the property cards? Under
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But it'd be nice if we had our own system.
Yeah, right.
What's the software? Are you in Excel?
So everything is tracked in Quicken, which is like a very old, somewhat unsupported program that's basically just functions as a ledger. So that's where I pay all our bills. The tax stuff is all done in Excel and Google Sheets.
And would you recommend continuing with Quicken?
One of the big things that I think we would want to pursue in the next couple of years is getting a better accounting system. The issue there is that the state has historically provided to towns a type of a software that's called NEMRIC or something along those lines.
Yep.
And we don't use that. Our auditor for the single audit was explaining to me that the state is in the process of producing a new version of that or something along those lines. And so if and when that were to come out, we would do well to think about using it. We could also use QuickBooks. That would probably take a little more setup, but it would be potentially more elegant just in that it would. So tracking delinquent taxes is a pretty complicated thing because there are variable rates for different delinquencies based on how close they are to when the bill was due. So that was something that I did over Christmas vacation, which was to catch everybody up until, so I have all the delinquent amounts until January 31st, and I have it in a big spreadsheet that can track and deal with all those different things. And often when people pay them off, like their bank needs to know the base amount and the penalty amount separate, which the information that I was given when I took over the tax collector position didn't really include a lot of that. So I think the system that I've built there, while a little bit sort of kludgy and not great, does kind of keep track of everything.
Alex, I'm sorry. What did you say the name of the software was that the state provides?
I think it's called like NEMREC or something like that.
RIC, NEMRIC,
NEMRIC, yeah.
NEMRIC.
And does the town of Rockingham use NEMRIC?
Yes,
Yes.
that's when you go onto the listers and the property cards, it's a NEMRIC thing.
Yeah, and the cool thing that a better system would do would just be like each parcel would be sort of a client in that system, and then you would have like, hey, their bill was this, and it would automatically populate, and then it would start calculating interest if they didn't pay.
Oh,
Whereas now I have to like,
you have to do it
I have to
manually.
build that, and then I
Mhm.
also have to account that like the first 3 months are 1%, and then the fourth month starts at 1.5%.
Mm,
And so you have those running over multiple years, and like my brain can't handle that in Excel. And so I have like a very awkward thing built with a lot of columns because Excel doesn't have a third dimension.
Third dimension. Do you have any questions for us?
No?
Are there any particular skills or experience that would be useful for the treasurer or the tax collector to have? Like an accounting degree? Or-
No, I don't know anything about accounting really, although I've learned. But I've also learned that there are lots of different ways that people do it under different conventional systems that you would assume are conventional, but they're not necessarily. I mean, being like very comfortable and easy to work in Excel is, or just in spreadsheets in general, is key. You know, the Quicken or other software are essentially, tabular data, and so it's the same kind of format and ability to like query and look at things and just think about numbers. So that's probably the biggest thing, is just being able to like be comfortable in spreadsheets and tracking things over time and like building some simple formulas and using them.
Mhm.
And then, other than that, it's pretty much like what you want from most employees or people is like an attention to detail and some level of timeliness.
And
But
honesty.
Yeah, and honesty. You get audited every year, which is fun.
Oh,
That's why March tends to be a little bit busy,
mhm,
because the village auditors go through everything and make sure that you are accounting for what you say you are.
mhm. What's that?
What, what sort of record keeping do you need to do?
So I kind of keep everything in like double or triplicate. So when a bill comes to me, I make sure that you guys have signed off on it, and then I pay the check, and it makes a carbon copy of the check, and then I write it down in the check ledger, and then I also enter it into Quicken, and then I also write on the invoice and file it by month. So I have a record of all the checks throughout the year, more or less in chronological order, in manila folders divided by month.
Mhm.
And then also in Quicken, I have those exact same entries all together. And then I also have it in the checkbook in really scribbly, horrible handwriting. But my thinking there is just that if the computer explodes or the house burns down, it's going to be
Mhm.
saved somewhere.
Yeah, right.
So the checkbook lives in a fireproof safe. The files live just in a Tupperware on the counter on the desk, and then the computer, I back up the computer to a flash drive every couple months, and that also lives in the safe.
Good.
So that is kind of my system for tracking bills. And then I reconcile those accounts when the bank statements come in. I'm still doing it. Josh, our auditor, corrected me in how I'm supposed to be doing that, but I haven't changed my systems yet because I generally have a good idea of that we're not going to go negative on our balances. So that's the record keeping for bills. For taxes, basically I have a spreadsheet that's saved in Google Docs, so it automatically backs up, that tracks all the sewer payments that come in. So I enter them there, and then I also enter them on the actual bills themselves in a binder. And I note, the check number, when they came in, and what the amount was for, because a lot of times some people will make partial payments. So I have sort of a redundant system there. And then I also make copies of all the checks and file them in batches with the deposit slips so that we have like a backup for like all those checks. I also keep all the envelopes that checks came in, because
my
sometimes
gosh.
if there's some question of like when that thing came or did we get it,
Hmm.
I used to file those carefully, but I don't file them carefully anymore because
Wow.
I've never really had to look for them. And so I figure if we ever actually get to the point of needing them, I'll go find them. But right now they're just like thrown in a drawer, separated by tax or sewer.
And you get rid of them every once in a while, right? Mhm. I mean,
One year I stapled them to all the bills, but then that made the folder too big.
oh, no.
So I've just started throwing them in a pile. But then, yeah, maybe I'll throw them in the shredder at some point.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That sounds like a lot of whatever.
Sounds like a
Huh.
very particular job. And I'm happy to be reminded, I didn't know, Ben, that you did the sewer lists.
Yeah.
So that's something we're going to have to figure out also when you leave the board.
He does the sewer bills. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and that's a really nice spreadsheet that Ben has that
Mhm.
has all the calculations for why we charge different people certain amounts. Like most people are either 1 or 2 units, but then there are a bunch of odd ducks out there too.
Mhm.
And that spreadsheet does all that. It also has the addresses. So I use that information to build the tax bills every year, which I do in Microsoft Word via a mail merge. So you can like tell Microsoft to go find the name and the address and the street address and the amount and populate it into a document.
Mhm.
So I do that to create our sewer bills every year.
Sewer or tax?
Sewer. Yeah, tax bills, the village makes those, the town of Rockingham
town.
makes those. There's some funkiness with how they do that because they like have to run it through their system and then they have to like delete it and then run their own bills. So that's why they're always heckling us to like get them our tax rate so that they can run our bills so that then they can focus on running their bills. And that's also why they can't generate us like a usable Excel list, which would seem really simple to me, but I'm not quite sure why they can't do that. But you know, the pain in the butt is that the village bills, I have to enter them all in a spreadsheet, and I just do that by parcel ID, sometimes name, and then amount. But I don't have like a list to check against for that.
But don't you just do that one time and most of the properties would stay, they'd have the same address and same names, right?
Yeah, but the amounts change every year, so.
Yeah, but your basic list would be the same except for people moving and.
Yes, I've never
Okay.
taken the time to make that nice. I just like hammer it out.
Yeah. Ben,
What were you gonna say,
do you have
Ben?
a question?
I do have a question. Alex, have you been provided from the town of Rockingham a list of the property values by property for the Saxton River properties?
Yes,
my
but it's a piece of paper.
Okay, so not electronically. Yeah, because my thinking is if we had the valuation, it would be pretty straightforward for us to use maybe the same spreadsheet we've got for the sewer list to then calculate the tax rate and use that mail merge if that would make it easier.
Yeah,
And send the bills
But
ourselves?
we need the assessment values.
Hmm.
And we would have to add properties like Louise's that are being billed for a tax but not sewer.
yep.
Mm.
Yeah, everybody who has a sewer has a tax, but not everybody who has a tax has a sewer.
Right. Yeah, something exactly.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, the main issue with tracking payments as they come in is just like when I do it in the sewer, it's a hassle because you got to find the person in that list of 200. And so I pretty much just use Control F to find the properties.
Yeah.
And so when I'm doing it for the property, I don't do that. I just enter them line by line. And then if I need to look back to see if someone paid, I just Control F them and find out if they paid or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it'd be sweet to have those all in one thing for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. The issue would be as the valuations change, we would need
You'd have to then enter
notify
those.
so that we would update it to keep that in sync. Okay.
But the sewer bills and the tax bills go out at different times, which is good because it's nice to just kind of deal with them a little separately coming in.
Yeah.
Because like 70% of the people pay in the first month and it's fine, and then the other ones trickle in, and same for property tax. And so it's nice to have them separated, just because then you don't get like 50,000 checks all at once from different. Some of them have to go into one account, some into the other, and
I see.
that's kind of a pain to deal with on the receiving end.
Yeah.
Because you look at the envelope and you like don't know what it is. You open it up. Oh, sewer, put it over here. Oh, tax, put it over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What else? We have this project at the storage plant, the storage building. We're going to need a check made out to Kevin Douglas Spring Hill. I'll send you the amount, but I want to have it ready to give to him when we get the permit, right, Amy?
Yes, and it
So that
occurred
he
to
can-
me, it occurred to me today that the reason I didn't hear about the permit was that it was Martin Luther King Day. Steve
Yeah.
Dumont was going to call me today,
No,
and he didn't, and I'm sure it's because their offices were closed.
yeah,
So I'm anticipating hearing from him. I'm hoping he will say, everything's good, sketch looks good, you gave me all the information we need, and then a finite time for when it's approved. Matt certainly gave us the feeling that it was a very basic project, but I haven't been through this before, and I know I keep hearing if there's a backlog, you just have to wait your turn. So that's all I know. I don't have any special insider information,
okay.
except for that I anticipated hearing from Steve today, and I would guess that I'll hear from him tomorrow.
So we also need to pay Lawrence and Lober half of their, so I'll send you that amounts too, a couple $1,000. So
Sweet.
we'll need 2 checks. I just want to have the checks ready to go so that the projects get started.
Yeah, Louise, Lawrence and Lober also has to file a permit for their work. Do you
Oh,
know
yeah?
if they have done that? Yeah, it's a separate,
For
it's
the
a
same,
separate
with the same people?
fire safety.
Oh, I don't know. I will ask them.
Perhaps I should have been clearer on that. I thought it went in with ours, but it does not. They need to
Oh.
do it separately.
Hmm.
And that's very customary. Matt assured me that they wouldn't be at all surprised about that.
Okay. So maybe they're just waiting
And
for
Alex,
a check.
both of those expenses should get coded as wastewater upgrade expenses so that we can submit those for reimbursement.
Mhm.
Yep, I did that with the permit fee, so I can do that with those
Great.
too.
Thank
Perfect.
Okay.
Is
Celia,
that
you
a
have a
question
question?
from Celia?
Celia?
She's
Oh.
playing with her light switch.
Any other questions for Alex?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of leads on people with the kinds of skills, persistence and punctuality that you've outlined, but we haven't done any asking yet. If we can't find someone, how would you feel about staying on an additional year?
Like I said in my email, like I'm happy to do that. I guess happy is the wrong word, but I'm willing to do that. But I would love somebody else to take it over.
Maybe an
this-
intern? We could get-
Uh,
If somebody
I'm-
would.
I can definitely like coach somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are definitely a few like hiccups that you'll have to sort of figure out. But
Mhm.
this year also coincides with me sort of chairing a national like forestry committee thing, and so I'm a little overmaxed right now.
Wow.
So, but like I also know the ropes of it pretty well. So if we don't find anybody, like I can certainly limp along for another year.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I'm hesitant to say that because I'd love to find somebody.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I think we should seek somebody, and I really appreciate personally knowing the process that got you to being in charge and being organized this year. That's great. That's great to have that in our heads when we start asking.
Yeah, for an organized person who has some facility with just Excel and accounting, like I can do what I just did now, which took 15 minutes. I can do that for an hour, and the right person will absorb most of that, and then I could do it again, and then they'll really know it.
Mhm. Great.
Anything else? Celia, do you have any questions?
Louise, what's the deadline for getting our ducks in line for the annual meeting votes on
The
positions?
second Monday in April.
No,
Ah,
we don't have to have candidates accept ahead of time.
Well, it'd be good to have them, yes.
There's no deadline for
No.
advertising their names as there is for
No,
other things.
People can be elected from the floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Celia wants to say
Yes.
something.
I would like to say that I agreed last year to serve as the collector of delinquent taxes, which is often referred to as collector, and that's what I've been.
You,
I haven't-
you're fading in and out a little bit.
I haven't done anything
Yeah.
about collecting delinquent taxes except to initiate a discussion with Connie Lancaster.
Mhm,
Did it before.
mhm.
And then when Alex came up with his new spreadsheet, I talked with Connie again. So what I would like to say now is that I am not seeking reelection. I'll do what I can between now and the annual meeting to get through as much as I can, given the information that I now have.
Okay.
But it's not a position that I'm prepared to deal with next year.
All right. You can put away your cudgel.
Well,
Never even got
I
a
was
cudgel.
definitely the bottleneck on that because I didn't get everything in a row until recently. So
Right, and COVID because there was a certain amount of having to go to town hall, and you couldn't get into town hall. But partly it was because I just get off. So
For some reason, you're fading in and
I
out.
can't hear what you're saying.
Yeah, you're fading in and out for some reason. What do you have for a microphone there?
Device that I don't ordinarily use.
Oh, okay.
well, I think, the main thing, and Celia, potentially you and I could do this together. It would be really nice to file a new set of liens, just because, we have quite a bit of delinquency, and some of them are the usual characters, but there are also some ones that didn't get caught in the last round of liens. And then we have a couple people who have extinguished their liens and then proceeded to not pay again. And so I'd like to get new liens put on those properties to just lock them up, and maybe notify their mortgage refinance companies about that too. But I just haven't gotten around to producing a bunch of liens yet.
I
So that
did
would be
get from Kathleen Needhawk, a copy of the lien paperwork, so I could generate that, I think. But
Yep, and
I'll work with you.
I have all the liens that we currently have, as well as all the paperwork for the ones that I've extinguished as people have paid, which are a couple of pretty significant ones. So yeah, we could generate, the 15 Word documents that would need to do those.
Okay, let's do that.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a good idea. I think it's important to have those liens update because, for anyone who doesn't know, that's the primary means that we collect past due tax or sewer fee revenue, is by having liens on properties. And then when those properties change hands, that's how we get paid.
Yeah, this year we probably brought in $50,000 via two liens that Connie got.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we've got those in place because otherwise they won't get picked up at the time of the property transfer. And then we'll be,
Goes out.
back in the same, we'll miss out on that opportunity.
Mhm.
Some lawyers call us about it, and then, we've had a few pay that didn't have a lien, but that's just because their lawyers are doing due diligence.
Right. Yep.
And it's been this year, the two big ones that came through were through refinancings, I think.
Right.
So people want to refinance their mortgage, and then the bank finds out that they owe $25,000 in sewer, and then we get paid.
Yep.
All right. Anything else? Okay.
Celia, is there anything you would like to say about what the duties of the delinquent collector are that we should know about as we go looking for someone?
It's a question, as we've discussed, it's a question of keeping track, of identifying and then keeping track. And Connie mentioned that Bill Harmon used to send a monthly reminder to the people who hadn't paid. And it was just a postcard. Once a month, he would remind them. That's the only thing that I can think of that we're not doing right now.
But there's no accounting. That's all done through the treasurer?
Yes.
I don't know what the history was before I sort of took over tax collector from Connie, and then Connie stopped doing delinquent tax collector. There is some accounting in that, like, theoretically, once I hand off that list of delinquent people, the delinquent tax collector needs to be calculating those interests.
Okay.
I've built the spreadsheet to do that for the people this year, but next year there'll be a new round of people, some of whom will be the same people as this year and some of whom will be new. And the new people will simply, need to be set up in the system to be tracked.
Okay.
So there's accounting insofar as adding, 1.5% per month ad infinitum until they pay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? We thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
You're $18 an hour. Maybe we should advertise it that way, huh?
Couple more years and I'll get it up. I get it up to 25 and then it'll be really
Woo!
attractive.
Okay, I guess, are we ready to move on to the next item? Which is talking about the flyer of the village officers' positions.
So I can start off on that. Thank you everyone for the initial feedback that helped me flesh that out. It may not be enough, but in the draft I sent you most recently, I suggested a first line of serve your community and work to keep Saxtons River clean, safe, and lively.
Is it not clean now? What's the clean? I don't understand.
Keep, maintain.
Clean. What's
So
that?
it's the wastewater treatment plant.
Oh,
And safe is the fire department and the fast squad, and lively is everything else. When we approve the concert.
clean, safe, and life. Okay. Maybe
So-
clean isn't the right word though. Healthful, healthy,
Okay.
maybe.
I thought clean was kind of nice myself. I like
Really?
that. Yeah.
Oh. Well, does that mean we have to go out and sweep or?
Isn't that your job?
I didn't know him to do it. Okay. Continue.
I'll just take comments. I mean, I have it. I haven't heard from anyone. Of course, I just barely sent it out to you all. Originally, I got a great bunch of things. Several people, I think Ben and Louise, were quick to say, you haven't called us to, a life of service, which is why I wrote that first line. Thanks to everybody's feedback, I've been able to make the list much more specific. But I guess one question is, Louise pointed out that technically all of the positions are open as of annual meeting. And if you want me to reflect that, I will. I'm not eager to do that because I think having them all open makes it sound like nobody wants to work for us. Whereas needing 2 positions seems more routine. And at this
But that's
point,
not true. We are seeking more than 2 positions. We're seeking.
Well, I
hours.
think you could just say we're looking for 2 registered voters to replace retiring trustees.
okay. How does that suit you, Louise?
I would say we're looking for village residents, forget the registered voters. We're looking for village residents to step up, or not to step up, I'm looking for village residents to serve on village positions in the village government. Make it more general, because and then you could say, then you would, in another paragraph, mention that it's a board. And then maybe in another sentence, and we're also looking for a treasurer and a tax collector, a tax collector of delinquent taxes, and auditor. We're also looking for auditors. Yeah, Ben?
So maybe a thought, Amy, is to word it such that we've got a number of, two village trustees who are not seeking reelection,
Mhm.
and, some other village positions
Yeah,
that are not seeking reelection.
yeah, that's what I had. Village
Yeah,
residents
right. So,
to serve as trustees and in other positions.
right. But, rather than saying we've got open positions,
Yeah.
because as Louise points out, they're all open,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
But that we've got, people, incumbents who are not seeking reelection.
Mhm.
And I like the using a sort of a casual voice, and I think what you put out the second time is much better than the first.
Nothing like a little positive feedback.
Yeah, good.
Clear this up for me, Louise. I thought
Yeah.
you had to be a registered voter.
Well, that's understood, I think.
No, it's not.
No,
No, it is not understood.
Oh, okay. I just think it's more wordy than, we're trying to be as lean as possible.
Well, I'm all for that. Believe me, there's nothing I like better than
So-
short and accurate. But I also want to make sure that people
Yeah.
don't think that just living here is enough, because it isn't. You have to be a registered voter, correct?
You have to be a resident of the village.
And a registered voter. No?
Does it say that in the, what do you call it?
Yes, I put both in. I'm
The
pretty sure.
No, does it say that in the ordinances? Does it say you have to be a
In the
registered
bylaw.
voter? The bylaws? Or does it just say you have to be a village resident?
I'll go back and look.
The other comment that I'll make is that, I think with any of these positions that, my feeling is that these are all volunteer positions, and we've got many, many, many positions beyond the trustees in this community that
Mhm.
are volunteer positions, whether it be Main Street Arts or, the
PTA.
fire department, the fast squad. There's many ways that people contribute to this community in volunteer capacities.
Mhm.
And I just think it's important that we maintain that emphasis on volunteerism,
Mhm.
and that these are various ways that people can serve their community. And they're not the only ways. There's many different ways that people do serve their community. So,
Mhm.
serving as a trustee or as an officer, is just one way. The stipend that's provided for some of these positions, I think, is a reflection of the direct costs that those positions impose on the person, serving those positions. But the importance is that these are all volunteerism opportunities,
Mhm.
and we're so blessed in this community that people are willing to step up and act in a service role.
Mhm.
And this is just another way for them to do that. And, it's no better or no less than, volunteering for the rec area or volunteering for, I'll come back to the fire department and the fast squad. Those people
Yep.
are amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I just think that that's so important that we stress that these are volunteer roles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And that it
Louise,
takes a community, it takes everybody in the community
Yes, yes,
to step up and be part
yes,
of
and
the,
that's what makes
share the,
Saxon River
share
a
the
great
work,
place to live.
right?
You know,
Yeah.
people volunteer at the school, you know, doing
Right,
various things,
right,
or
right.
you know, I won't go on.
I'll give you another one, driving Meals on Wheels. It's a
Sure, there's so
very
many.
active
There's so
group, yeah.
many.
Right.
So Louise, I did look back at the bylaws
Yeah.
and it talks about legal voters of the village.
Okay. Well, what is a legal voter?
That's a
That
registered
means it's your
voter.
registered voter.
Voter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Amy,
Yes,
I had a couple of picky points.
good. I count on you for that, Carl.
That's what I'm good at. In your paragraph which says agendas, minutes, and contact information,
Yep.
the first picky point is it should be are, not is, I think.
Minute
And the second thing is that
are.
contact information is not on that agendas and meetings and minutes page. So I don't know if you want to make a point of putting in the trustee page link or not, but if somebody is just clicking electronically for the link off of this document and they want to know about contact information for the trustees, they won't find it unless we put that link
Okay,
in.
I'll put both links in. That's an easy fix.
Yeah,
How
And
about,
I accept your grammatic correction.
how about putting in our contact, saxrivergov@gmail.com? People have questions.
well, if they go to that trustees page, they'll find it there.
Yeah, but why not make it more
We
direct?
could put it here, yeah.
Because if they don't go there, they won't find it. I also would like to say, get an idea of what's involved by attending a meeting, and then in parentheses, on Zoom for now.
So what I
because
said
they're not attending a live meeting.
What I said was get an idea of what's involved by going to a meeting.
Yeah, but they're not going, they're attending, but by Zoom. They can't attend, they can't go anywhere.
Okay, by Zoom.
By attending a meeting, and then in parentheses, on Zoom for now. So they know that we are meeting, but it's on Zoom. And then they would have to email us to find out the link.
Or they would go to the agenda.
Oh yeah, that would show them.
In that same paragraph, Amy,
Yep.
in your parentheses under administrative tasks,
Yep.
I wonder if you need to say overseeing the village. Because you
Overseeing.
go right on to say trustees oversee.
Oh, I think you got something missing. Overseeing village, and it ends there. There's a missing
Oh,
word.
property.
Property? Like what?
The fire department.
Sewer plant?
I think I got myself tangled up. So in fact,
You said that the next.
yeah,
yeah.
I decided it needed to be a whole list. So probably overseeing doesn't belong there at all.
Okay.
So
I think
should
if you
be
just have setting
setting
tax
tax-
rates and preparing the budget, that's enough
Yep.
for examples.
I should also put in setting, I already put in setting policy and local ordinances. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other tasks that people would like to see reflected?
Hmm.
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. So I
I
will.
think it's a nice description.
It's getting better, isn't it? So I will mention, I'll try and work out something that acknowledges all of the volunteers. I will mention the other positions and give short descriptions of them. And I'll fiddle around with the 2 village trustees who are retiring, eliminating the phrase open positions, and I'll send it to you again.
Maybe the first sentence, instead of being a command, could be something like many people serve our community, blah, blah, blah. And help keep it up, blah, 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 blah. And then,
4th of July committee. I just thought
yeah,
of another one.
another one. So rather than start out with a command.
Yeah.
And we need you.
Yeah.
Your village needs you. Okay, great.
That's right.
Okay, you'll have it soon. Thanks,
you.
people.
Okay, I have a couple, let's see. Oh,
And do you, I'm sorry, Louise, I need to ask
Yeah.
one more thing. Do you want this to go in the shopper?
Sure, and going, well, how would it go as a letter to the editor? Because it's not an article.
It's a press release.
No, but you don't make a press release like this. I mean, it's not written like a press release.
Well, it's not a who, what, where, when, why.
Yeah. Maybe a letter to the editor. If people see that, they read that more, maybe.
Any other comments on that?
I have no objection of it going anywhere. I think, the more the merrier.
Okay,
We could also, I think, put it up on the webpage.
Definitely.
okay. And it wouldn't
And
hurt to
Facebook.
put it on the bulletin board at the Village Market.
And Facebook.
Front
have a
Porch
sex-
Forum.
No, we have
as it's shorter.
we have a Saxtons River Facebook page.
Sure, do it.
Okay,
And then actually we could send it to everybody on our email list.
How many people are on that email list, Louise?
I think it's like 80 something.
80? Nice.
Oh, it's more than that, isn't it?
It is?
Or maybe, I thought it was over 100.
No, that's the people, those people aren't all residents that you send it to, the agenda to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Maybe they're willing to move to Saxtons River just to serve.
People keep saying on Facebook page, oh, I just moved to Saxons River.
There we go. Yeah, perfect.
All right, speaking about moving, oh, well, let's see, we have to go to committee reports. Wastewater treatment plant upgrade, anything on that?
Oh, we're just
Same
waiting
old.
for that permit, right?
yep.
Fire station building, what?
And and to tell Lawrence and Lober that they need to
Yes,
file their permit as well.
yes, I'll do that. Okay, where other business? Yeah, okay. We had a lot of people parking overnight on Main Street in the last storm. And one person's driveway was actually blocked by somebody parked there. And it seems it's the people who are staying at the Colvin House across from the inn. And I've spoken to Peter Stam, and he says he tells them to park in the back. So we're gonna, I think we should have the town really push and have those people towed if they're parking on the main street. And maybe we could get the police or the sheriff come by the morning after somehow and just give them tickets. I don't know. It's a state law too, I think. So that was a big problem.
So this is the big snowstorm, Louise?
The one we just had.
The 4-inch storm that
The
of the
sloppy,
weekend?
the
The
sloppy
slush
stuff.
storm, yeah.
Yeah, and so if there's a car park there, that place doesn't get plowed. And then then nobody else can park there because it's all
Yep.
slushy stuff. So it's a problem, and the people just don't do what they're supposed to do.
And
So
the sheriff has the authority to ticket?
I would think so, if it's
I would think they do, yeah.
yeah.
So Louise, what's
Yeah.
the mechanism for getting a vehicle towed?
Well, I was told that there's one place in Bellows Falls, A&W or something, that does the towing. And it would have to be somebody who was out there at that hour and saw that they were parked there to call in, I guess. And
So,
I
but who does one call?
call A&W and have them come and tow the
Well,
car.
so if I find somebody parked across my driveway, can I call the towing and have them towed? Doesn't it have to be somebody official, like one of us or somebody from the town?
I don't know about your private property. And the snowplow person certainly could call. But they're plowing the snow. They're not wanting to be on the
I
phone.
don't think that the plow operators are going to want to worry about
No,
people parked illegally while they're plowing. But, suppose somebody were to park on the street, but in front of my driveway, which is what happened.
well, if it's on the street, yes, then you call the town.
Then the property owner calls the town,
Well,
or does it call the tow?
I don't know. I would say you call the town because it's a town road
Okay.
and they'll tell you, what to do. Right?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know that you can call a tow person on somebody else
Well,
if they're not on your property.
I would think not. And I'm not even, I don't know what the laws are in Vermont. In Wisconsin, if somebody were parked in my driveway on my property, I still couldn't have called a tow truck to tow them away. I would have had to have called the police and have the police call the tow truck
Oh, yeah.
because
Okay.
I would
maybe.
be considered stealing their car. if
So
I
this
removed them.
has happened to you?
No, but I mean, it
Oh,
happened to
okay.
my neighbor.
Okay. Well, it happened to this guy on Main Street too.
Yeah, so I
I would
mean, I just
suggest
don't know
that-
what the regulations are, but I was
Dan,
just curious.
I would suggest that somebody call the sheriff department,
Mhm.
and ask them what the
Protocol.
what the options are. But I think the idea of, if we want to step up enforcement,
Mhm.
would be to start with them, and the next time there's a snowstorm, have them come by to ticket the
Right.
vehicles.
Right.
And then if they advise us that if they show up and the car's still not moved, that they would call somebody to
So-
tow, then maybe that's
Right.
the next step. But
Right.
just adding
Okay.
a level of enforcement makes sense.
Right.
That sounds
It's
like a good plan.
It's a town ordinance, not a village ordinance.
Right. Right.
So I'm also curious why the town plow drivers don't already have an established, I guess, means of following up on these infractions. I mean, it would be
Well, they'd have to be able to. They really couldn't do it right then, right, while they're plowing. I mean,
I'm just wondering how they handle, if this were to happen elsewhere in the town of Rockingham, how would they handle it,
do? What would they do? Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's not a Saxtons River ordinance, it's a
Right.
town of Rockingham ordinance.
Right. So who would know that?
I would think the town office,
Okay.
right? Town manager, public works administrator.
Mhm. Okay. Let's check it with them
Right.
because they're the ones that really are impacted by this. People being in the way when they're trying to plow.
Right.
Besides us.
Right. But if we can help by,
Yeah.
calling the sheriff, then by all means.
Mhm.
Yeah, I actually saw the plow driver speaking to somebody who had a car parked on Main Street after the
good.
storm.
Good.
And, they were in the act of moving their car, but there was another car in front of them that wasn't being moved. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a problem for the plow drivers.
Mhm. Mhm. And for the people who live in front of those houses and
Yeah,
businesses
exactly.
too.
Yep.
What was the other thing I was going to talk about?
I know one thing I'd like to say.
Okay.
It's so great to have correct signage up in my neighborhood. So
Did they
Clark-
correct?
Clark Court had been changed to be Clark's Court, and it's back. It's
Oh,
Clark Court
good.
again.
Okay.
And Van Cor had an E on the end, and
Oh,
it has
good.
also been corrected.
Oh, good, good,
It
good.
may seem picky, but I like things to be spelled correctly.
Right. What was the other thing I was gonna mention? I can't remember. Oh, I don't know. Tomorrow at 5:30, we're ringing the bells at the church and at the Historical Society, of sort of a mini vigil, to memorialize the 4,000 people who died, 400,000 people who've died of COVID in this country. So if you hear the bells, don't panic. Oh, I know, I was gonna ask, does anyone know whether our fire department and fast squad have had vaccinations? I have
I
to
don't
ask.
know.
I sent an email to Art, but I haven't heard. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, wow. Go ahead.
I happened to notice this email on the SecRaGov site
Yeah.
about a boundary and annexation survey.
Oh, yeah.
Are we going to be doing anything about that?
And we get that every 4 years or whatever it is. They usually send like a map and you write yes or no that it's the right boundaries and send it back.
Okay, yeah, because,
It should be more of a town thing rather than a village thing, actually, I think.
well, I looked up that map because I was curious, because
Yeah.
it's time to start nagging the town again about our traffic ordinance. Because,
Oh,
I sent it to them because they have a committee reviewing ordinances and
mm-hmm.
haven't heard anything back. And anyway, we were debating about where the actual boundaries were. And I don't know if that census map is accurate or not.
Oh,
So
well, I should.
I was just curious if we were going to pursue this, if we've done it before, or if I should.
I haven't looked at it, so I don't know if it's accurate or not.
No.
But
I can't tell you either, because I can't tell you where the rock is that the town boundary is fixed from, so.
Well, you should know that the sheriff collected $683 in fines in the last month, so that's a
Yeah.
significant.
Speeding mostly?
Well, it doesn't say. It says 4 warnings, 2 fines totaling $683 and no arrests. I didn't really read the other details, but that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'll point that out to my teenage driver.
Oh, is he one of the ones? Was he caught?
She,
Mary?
Mary, no, and she did not get a speeding ticket, but at
She got
least
a-
not that I know of.
Oh, she didn't get a warning? Oh, okay.
No, she didn't get a
Warner,
warning either. I'm just saying I'll let her know.
Oh, yeah,
of the
let her
amount of
know.
the fine.
Okay.
warn her that they park at the end of Hartley Hill Road in front of my front door looking for speeders coming up from Westminster West, so she should
Oh.
get herself there.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, because that's a real source of speeding cars in the village. I'm
That's-
delighted to hear that they hang out there and try and nab them.
Mhm.
Well, I haven't seen them actually ever do anything, but they sit there.
They have their lunch.
I
Are
haven't- I
they
haven't seen them
the
actually
ones who are
do
blocking
anything.
your driveway? All right. Anything else? Celia, you want to say anything? Don't you miss us?
No,
Don't wanna
thank
come
you.
back?
I do miss you.
Thanks for joining us, Celia, and
Yeah.
thank you for joining us, Fact TV.
Yeah, Fact TV. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Or is it
Second.
non-debatable? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye. All right. Good night.
thanks.